All right. Welcome everybody to another episode of Coach's Corner. It's been a minute since we've been able to get together. As always, you know who I am. I am Coach Malcolm, and as always, today we got Coach Conrad. How you feeling today?
Feeling good, man.
Representing our Universal Basketball program. Yes,
Yes,
as
sir. Yes,
always,
sir.
Universal is in our hearts and our minds, and definitely in the back of our minds about how angry we are sometimes and where our gray hairs are starting to come from. But we love our program. We love our guys. Yesterday, we experienced our first loss of the season for our varsity team, and that'll be something that we get into later on about how that feels for us. But other than that, Coach, how has your Saturday been so far?
Yeah, man. Saturday's been pretty good so far. Had a kids development camp at Universal for first through fourth grade. So
Right.
that was nice being able to get the younger kids in the gym and
Hmm.
really try to, teach them the game early so that when they start getting into that fifth, sixth grade, seventh grade level and they're starting to play on the middle school teams, they're already kind of under our system, under our wing, getting the terminology that we want them to know by that
Right.
time. So that's all key.
Absolutely. And that's something we'll talk about more too, player development as we get to that topic. But I'm glad your Saturday's been pretty smooth. My Saturday's been all right. Just got done, putting up the Christmas tree and all that other stuff, trying to get some Christmas cheer in my life since
There you
yesterday
go.
was such a dud and a letdown. I thought I would get up this morning and kind of get a little cheerful, drink some hot chocolate, put some Christmas stuffs up, get some lights up and feel all cheery for today since I knew that we were going to talk. I don't want to be down and out and depressed.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, that's pretty much been my Saturday so far.
Yeah, you know what they say for us high school coaches, man. We let some teenagers decide our moods on a daily basis for 4 months, man. 4 months
Yeah,
out
pretty
of the
much.
year, they
And,
just
and,
decide
and
how we feel.
sometimes it could last longer than that, depending on how those 4 months go.
Yeah, very
You know how
true.
those 4 months go. It can last longer than that. It can hang over, and you could be stuck on that all summer. But let's go ahead and get right into it, Coach. Again, this is another episode of Coach's Corner, presented to you by the Halftime Podcast. And you can find us always on YouTube and on Instagram. All right, Coach, let's get right into it. Let's start off with this one first. Our beloved Chicago Bears. They are no longer the number one team in the NFC. It was short lived, and we are no longer the number one team in the NFC North. But with that being said, do you still believe that the Bears are a legitimate team? And do you think we have a chance of being able to contend for a Super Bowl this season?
So it's a good two-part question, Coach, and I'll start off with the Super Bowl question.
Okay.
I don't think we're a contender yet. I do like our ability to compete in games. I think we're a much tougher team, kind of nose to the grindstone type of team
Right.
that really has kind of set forth their entire effort and just really put everything that happened last season, away, put to rest. New narrative this year, not going to be the same old Bears is kind of what has been floating
Right.
around all year.
Absolutely.
So, but Super Bowl, I don't think so, man. I think there's so many teams in the NFC that are just more complete.
Hmm.
When we're talking about the trenches, obviously the Bears do have one of the better O lines in the game, so
Hmm.
they're good on that side of the ball. But we know how lackluster that D line is of ours. So, I think when you get to the playoffs and you get good offensive lines, you have good receivers. You're playing the best of the best teams, the
Hmm.
most complete teams in the NFL. You need to get after the quarterback, and that's something we can't do unless we scheme that up. So, that's one of my sole reasons for us not being contenders. I also think our offense is too sporadic at times, not consistent enough that I would like to see it be. But I do think we're legit. Like, I don't think this is a fairy tale like Cinderella run type of season.
Hmm.
Granted, the games that we have won by close fashion, they were, you could call it subpar teams, right? I mean, you look at the Giants, not a great team. We had to come back it was a very hard fought victory to get back into that game
Right. Right.
against a team that, is nowhere near being a playoff contender, right? But then you look at games like, again, Dallas earlier in the year, they were nobody. We handled our business, but as Dallas got better throughout the season, they've shown that they're a competitor now.
Right.
And
Right. Right. Right.
we were able to beat them earlier on when we still didn't know our identity as a team either.
Yes.
So I think it's really been up and down as far as where I think this team could possibly be versus where our floor is.
Hmm.
But I think they're legit, man. I think the way that they fly around the ball is no coincidence. I think the way Al Harris has these guys playing, just being able to ball hawk, our corners being very sticky at times, just seeking ball, especially our safeties. And then, of course, Dennis Allen is, although, in my opinion, probably coached one of his worst games of the season, that last
Talk about
week
against
out
Green Bay.
against Green Bay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think throughout the entirety of the season, one thing that has really kind of encouraged me and has given me hope is how much this offensive line has gelled like throughout the season. Obviously, early on, they were struggling so much with these pre-snap penalties, holding penalties, false start, all that great stuff. But as we got through the season, they became obviously a top five O line in the league. And when's the last time you're able to see? When's the last time you were able to call a Bears O line like top five in the league? I couldn't tell you. Maybe when Olin Cruz was still on the Bears.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a lot of encouraging things. This team plays hard against like Green Bay. The last time we played, first half was abysmal. They had no energy. Green Bay was doing whatever the heck they wanted to them all half, and then
Hmm.
the Bears came out in that second half and was the better team, like completely the better team. And but again, it was just too little, too late. You can't always have the heroic comebacks.
Right.
So,
Right.
that's one thing that just needs to be more consistent. Again, both sides of the ball. We can't have these sporadic hot moments. We got to stay kind of level-headed and consistent throughout from the start to the finish of the game.
Yeah. I'm right there. I'm a little right there with you. I think the only thing I would differ is in one, I don't think we're a Super Bowl bound team. So I want to just say that right away. I don't think
Yeah,
we have a chance of winning the Super Bowl. Only because I think there's a lot of things that we need to still clean up on the offensive side of the ball.
absolutely.
You said sporadic. I was, going to go with the words of just they're very inconsistent. Our passing game is inconsistent. Our running game is it's a little bit more, I guess, robust than our passing game as far as like where it has gotten. I think we have leaned a little bit heavier on the run as we should because the months are getting colder. This is where you need to
Absolutely.
be able to play a little bit more smash mouth football and try to pound guys in the trenches and be able to get further and further using the run because that's what cold weather football relies on. But with that being said, I think the defensive side of the ball has always been the thing that has bothered me the most about the identity of where we've kind of lost opportunities this season. As everybody would know if they've been following us, I've been big about how we haven't been able to get a pass edge rusher alongside Montez Sweat on the opposite side. I felt like we wasn't gutsy enough to try to pull off moves for Myles Garrett. We wasn't gutsy enough to try to make a deal for Trey Henderson. We let Micah Parsons go to Green Bay. I just felt like we dropped the ball a lot of times on being able to put ourselves in a position to win now. Caleb is on a rookie contract. And once he is done with this rookie contract, he's going to take up like 40% of our, salary. So it's like, you have a limited amount of space to capitalize and become the greatest version of what this team can be. And I think Ryan Poles has done a terrible job of, being gutsy enough to just make the deals when you got a chance to make the deal. Because I think there has been opportunities that we could have capitalized had we been willing to, make the trade, give up the first round picks or whatever the case may be. When you look at some of the deals that kind of got done, it's like, why couldn't we be in on that? I mean, what are we coveting so much? You give up a first round pick to get a historic NFL player. That's the bargain, right?
Yeah.
You're willing to bargain that when you know you can give up a first round pick for a sure thing. It's not like you're giving up a first round pick for another projected player that may or may not pan out.
Hey,
You're
I mean,
giving
look, they gave Dio Odoyungbo freaking $16 million, starting edge rusher money for a
yeah,
guy that hasn't proven
that
anything in the
hasn't
league.
proven anything. Yeah, so it's like when you look at it from that perspective, it's just like you're making moves over here for projection. Why won't you make moves for a sure thing? And so that has bothered me. So those things alone, along with the fact that like and along with that, the defense has been disguised as okay based upon the fact that we lead the league in takeaways. So because we lead the league in takeaways, it has been able to mask just how bad this Bears defense actually is. Our sacks that we get is based upon coverage. It's only if we get a long period of being able to cover guys downfield that our defensive line is able to finally get to the quarterback. If you're asking if a quarterback can read the defense and get the ball out within 2 to 3 seconds, we get sliced and diced all up. And that's pretty much what Green Bay showed
Yeah.
against us this last game with Jordan Love, was just that as long as you can get the ball out, this defense really doesn't stand a chance because we can't get to the quarterback with our defensive line pressure. And once you start relying on linebackers to try to help with blitzes and stuff like that, then we really get tore up because our secondary is now really having to lock down guys with second, third string free agent cornerbacks trying to do this when we got plenty of our secondary that's still out. So I mean, legitimacy, I think, is for me. I'm gray on it only because I feel like a lot of our record is due to the fact that we've played teams that wasn't at their best. Like for Dallas, for instance, they didn't have Quentin Williams. They didn't have a lot of the pieces that they ended up getting at the deadline to try to turn things around. Along with that, we've played some teams that didn't have their starting quarterbacks available when we played them. So those are potential games that may or may not have gone in our favor, depending on if we were playing the starting quarterback. So I think there have been a lot of things that have, went along the way to try to that has allowed us to get the record that we have. Not saying that we wouldn't have been competitive, because I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying that we would have just lost those games. But I am saying that the caveat is we don't know for sure if those things would have been wins had we been playing teams at their full strength. But this is the pros. This is the NFL. You can't sit here and boo hoo about the fact that a team doesn't have their starting quarterback, starting running back, or offense. It's like you got to go out there and play with who you got. They're all professionals. They all made it to the professional league, so they all have the capacity to be able to step in and step up and do something. And if they can't, oh well. So you play who's in front of you. But I do want to just say we're part of a situation where a good portion of our record is centered around the fact that we fell into some good grace. We fell into some good grace along the line of the schedule where certain things kind of worked in our favor a little bit. And so I think that is what, I won't say it doesn't make me feel like they're legit, but it takes away a little bit of the luster of like, well, how good are we versus what we were able to play against? You know what I mean? Like how
Yeah.
much of it was actually like us beating teams at their best, or was it like some things were kind of already tilting our way, like Vegas, the odds were in our favor a little bit, and so we were just able to go in and just handle our job, which is what I will say is the biggest thing, right? Because last season we would have still had these same odds in our favor and probably still lost those games. That's the difference, right? The games that are clearly in favor of us to win, we find a way to win them. So I think that is really the true narrative of this team, and what has changed is that we're no longer the team that's not winning the games that we should win. We are the team now that's winning the games that we should win, and that's the difference. And so I
Yeah.
think I appreciate that. But Wills, I think if we get into the playoffs, I think we could be a scary team if we're healthy. So if everybody comes back and we're all healthy, defense is all healthy. Jalen is back. Kyler is back. Tremaine is there. TJ Edwards is back. The defensive line is as healthy as it possibly can be. We still got Gardner Johnson. We still got these pieces in play. Rome is back. And as long as we're healthy, I do think we can be a scary team that you may not want to play in the playoffs if we make it. Still doesn't make me believe we can get to the Super Bowl, but it does make me believe that you should be cautious if the Bears is the first team you have to play in the wild card round or at any point in the playoffs. If you don't take us seriously, you could be out of it because it's just one game and one game only. And so I think that being the style of the playoffs, if we're healthy, we're a team that you don't want to play in the playoffs. I'll leave it at that though. But
Yeah,
that's pretty
no,
much how
I
I feel
I
on that.
absolutely agree with you on that. Like, I do think if the Bears, which I do expect them to be able to make the playoffs as a sixth or seventh seed,
Right.
that wild card spot, I don't think we'll win the division at this point unless we win out and Green Bay, drops their
Loses
game
another
against
one.
Denver
And that could
this
happen.
weekend.
That could
You know
happen.
what I
That could
mean? Like
happen.
Detroit or sorry, Green Bay could drop the ball. Hey, Detroit might come out of nowhere and,
Yeah.
and start winning games, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they've got a rough patch of games their last
And
couple
we
weeks
still
of the
have to play
season.
them, and we still got to play Green Bay again. So I
Exactly.
mean,
So I
like,
mean, there's still a lot up in the air. What I do like that the Bears have done is that we are still in the position that we're going to control our narrative.
right,
We're not
right,
relying on, what's going to happen with other teams.
yeah,
If we win out, man,
we're
we will
good.
probably win the
We're
division.
good.
You know what
We're
I
good.
mean?
We're good.
So like that's encouraging to see. I feel like that's a position we haven't been in so long.
Yeah.
Um, and I definitely agree with you on the point. Like, if we are able to come back healthy, like Jalen Johnson's back, but he's clearly not what he is.
Not 100%. Yeah,
He's
he's
not
not
as
100%.
advertised right
And
now
he's not
because he's
in
not
not
healthy.
game ready. Not game
Yeah,
ready yet.
yeah, and Kyler Gordon, he's still out. He came back
Yeah.
for a week, got hurt right away. He got hurt in pregame warmups against
Yeah.
Green Bay.
Yeah.
So I think Tyreek Stevenson is
It's
still
still out.
out.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you've got so many like Tremaine Edmonds, who was leading our team in interception or tied with Nashawn Wright at one point. He's
Mm-hmm.
been out for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Like, I think that's
I think
another thing
TJ
for the
Edwards still out too,
defense.
right?
He came back last week,
Oh, okay.
so it
Okay.
was his first week back. So I mean, like you were saying, if we could get everybody back and they could play at least the last 2 weeks of the season going into the playoffs,
Yeah.
that's a scary team.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's a scary team.
Yeah.
And like we might be looking at a situation where, if it's number three and number six seed, we're the sixth, Green Bay ends up at third, and we have to go play them in Lambeau. I kind of like our odds. Like I
Yeah, I
do
mean,
like our
like that's why I
chances at
said.
winning that
That's
game.
what I'm saying. Like, I don't think we're the team that in the playoffs in the NFC. You're like, let's get the Bears. Like, I don't. We're no longer the team that you want to play. And I think
Yeah,
that's the beautiful thing about what we have become and where we've gotten. It's just that, if you're asking me like, the question of being contenders or being legit, I'm still, it's a not a contender, I know for sure. Being legit, I weigh it based upon, it's weighted like a grade, like a weighted grade. It's based
absolutely.
upon certain factors that have contributed to our current record and stuff like that. But I still believe that we aren't healthy. We haven't even actualized our true full potential due to our injuries, due to some of the things that we've had to overcome. So in the midst of me waiting that based upon who we played, the opponents we played, how hurt they were, I have to take into account how hurt we are and different things like that. So when I'm putting that all together and I'm saying, okay, we're still winning the games that are favorable for us and we're pulling through, if we get healthy and everybody is back, then damn it, how good are we actually going to be? And I think that's what most teams, if they're circling it too, they're thinking like, yeah, we might not really want to play them, the first team in the playoffs, because if they're coming in healthy, this could be a dangerous run. They could have their Cinderella moment in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like it could
Absolutely.
potentially happen. It could potentially happen. So I think like the New York Giants when they went on to the Super Bowl. I don't think they won that year. I don't think they were like a number one seed or anything like that. I think they were a wild card team and they ended up getting far to the Super Bowl and ended up winning. So I like we could end up having a situation like that. So I think that's where I'm optimistic. But I think, like I said, it'll be left up to be seen. But like you said, the fact that we're in a situation where the narrative is we just have to do our part and we don't have to worry about other people and we got to get two losses from this team and this team has to lose
Yep.
this and blah, blah, blah. Because we're not in that scenario, I'm happy. At this point, it's just do our job and we'll be fine and we can keep going and then may the best team win when the playoffs come. So I'm happy
Absolutely.
about that. That as a Bears fan I'm ecstatic about because we haven't been in this situation in a long time since the Lovey Smith era. So I'm happy about that. All right, Coach. Anything else you got on that one?
No, man.
All right, let's continue to move on. Again, this is another episode of Coach's Corner. Coach Malcolm, this is Coach Conrad. But let's move on to our second topic. All right, the Bulls. They started off 5-0, and everybody was woo. It's kind of funny because we also started off 5-0, and everybody was like woo. But we're not gonna have the same narrative as these Bulls because I won't let it happen. But the question for you, Coach, is with all of the hoopla around the Bulls, and now that they were on a 7-game losing streak until last night when they beat the Charlotte Hornets by 3. And it's not like they went out and beat Denver or OKC or anything. So pump your brakes for anybody that's like, oh, the losing streak is over. It is still the Charlotte Hornets. Um, there has been rumors percolating that Billy Donovan has lost a little bit of the locker room, that guys are not hearing the message the same coming from Billy. So my question for you is it time for the Chicago Bulls to decide to move on from Billy Donovan?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of matter in that question just because like we know how much this Bulls organization values Billy Donovan.
Hall of Fame
We
coach,
exactly, and we
two-time
know how
national
much
championship winner.
yeah, we know how much the NBA and just the basketball world values him as a coach as well.
Yeah.
Like again, he's a Hall of Fame coach now. He's obviously national championship winner. He's been in so many great organizations and had his hands in so many different pools, and like he really is just one of those names that you hear, one of the faces you see, and it's like, damn, like yeah, like I know that guy. Um, and then you look at this Bulls team and kind of how they've been performing since he got here, and it's like, well, Billy, like what's going on, you know? I will say though, like with this Bulls team specifically, and kind of with how these Bulls teams have been since he's gotten here, I feel like there really hasn't been a team that's been just constructed to how he wants to run his team.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you.
And like just the players he has now, like he's said it multiple times, and it's very clear, especially against that game against Charlotte, which was last night, right? I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yesterday.
they came back and won that game, very tight game, but that whole game they were getting hammered, man. Charlotte was hitting shot after shot after
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah.
Guys weren't getting back on defense. Guys stopped cutting. Like I kind of view it a little bit like, how our loss was like last night, and how we started off our season. Like when the guys were doing what they were asked to do, they were executing the offense, they were following and trusting in what we were preaching on defense.
Yeah.
Same with the Bulls and Billy. We were winning games, they were winning games. Like
Right.
when
Right.
everybody was moving off the ball, like Modest was getting all those backdoor cuts, even Patrick Williams was getting involved in that stuff. Josh Giddey looked like he was going to be an all-star player.
Potential
Um,
MVP candidate if it
you
would have
know what I
kept up.
mean? So it's like, and then at a certain point, like I feel like once Kobe White got back, it was like same old Bulls. Like we're gonna go back to kind of what we were doing last season in that first half of the season when Zach LaVine was still on the team. Like we're gonna start to be static. We're gonna rely on a lot of just pick and roll opportunities.
Mhm.
Hopefully, Vooch could set a good screen, and then maybe he'll get open if the big man on defense can't rotate fast enough. It's
So it
honestly
sounds
just
like
felt
you're
like
blaming Kobe for the losing.
I'm not blaming Kobe for the
Because
losing.
he
I
hasn't been there for
think
every game that they've lost. He's been in and out the lineup since he quote
exactly.
unquote came back.
Exactly. Right. So I mean, for me, it's like I don't think you could point to Kobe and be like, "Well, it's on you that they're losing games," but you're also not helping the team win. So it goes hand in hand with one another. Like he isn't doing enough for me as a Bulls fan to believe like, yeah, let's give this man $30 million next season for the next 5 years.
Okay.
Right? Which is what he's going to be looking for. But at the same time, I think it's also a product of how poorly this team is built,
Yeah. Yeah.
that you really can't go and just point the finger at Billy Donovan and be like, man, you suck. We have all the talent you need right here. You started off 5-0 with this talent. Why couldn't you keep it going?
Yeah.
Which is why me and you at the beginning of the season tried telling all of our Bulls fans, viewers, let's pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Let's relax. We're on a very hot streak. We're on a very good start, but
We did.
relax, man.
We did. We did.
Relax, because
We did.
I had a feeling, and I really am an optimistic person, I would like to say, but I just had a feeling with how the team was playing, that it just wasn't sustainable. Like
Yeah.
eventually teams
Yeah.
were going to find out how to beat the Bulls, and it's as simple as that. And that's what happened. Josh Giddey even came out in the presser and said like, "Oh, if you could rebound and you could stop us in transition, you beat the Bulls."
Well, I mean, that was one of the things that I was saying from the jump was that a lot of what we were doing was because we were in
No,
transition and we were able to uh push in the open, in the open court and control the pace. And a lot of that was the reason why we were able to win and do the things that we were doing. It wasn't necessarily because we were just this high powered half court offense and we were just highly executing. It was
right,
just because we were able to get up and down the floor and get past people that things were working and things were exceptional. But had it been a situation where we had to be forced to play in the half court, I had always been concerned with our ability to execute, which is what teams finally figured out. Just rebound, control the boards, and like you said, get back in transition and force them to beat you in the half court. And when you force them to beat you in the half court, especially at that time with the limitations on the perimeter without Kobe White, Now you're relying on Josh Giddey to be a really solid perimeter shooter, which I've been saying is going to have to be where he gets better. The assist and the rebounding that he does is a given because that's just naturally his game. But in order for him to elevate this team and himself, his perimeter shooting has to get better. And it was good those first 5 games, but as the season has gotten, it's spotty. He might have it this game. He might not have it the next game. He might have it for 2 games in a row. Then the next 3 games, it's I miss a three, hit a three, miss a three, hit miss 2 more threes, hit a three. So it's like it's been like that with Josh Giddey, and that's kind of been his career. That's kind of the reason why he fell out the rotation at OKC is because alongside Shea, he wasn't good enough when they doubled Shea for him to knock down shots. So it was just like, well, not only do you need the ball, but when they double Shea, you also can't knock down any shots. So it's like, what great value do you have for us at this point? Which is why OKC was willing to trade Josh Giddey literally for a 3-and-D specialist and Alex Caruso, just somebody that can knock down shots and play defense, because essentially you value that a little bit more alongside Shea than you value somebody that can take quote unquote ball handling pressure off of
Exactly.
Shea. So I think that's what the situation was. And I have always been adamant about you can't be a lead guard in this NBA, somebody that has the ball in your hand 24/7 with that much usage and not be able to shoot from the outside, because when the game gets tight and the defense is able to pack in, they basically going to say, you're going to have to beat us from the 3-point line. Until
Yep.
you show us that you can shoot, we're going to sag off on you. We're going to load up on the perimeter and play help to make sure none of your other guys can get to the lane. And we're going to make sure we contest the shooters that you quote unquote do have. And then when they swing it to you, we're going to force you to knock down that shot. If you happen to beat us that night, cool. But we trust over a 7-game series, you shooting the 3-point shot is not going to win the series for your team. And that's Josh Giddey, right? That's what teams are banking on. They're playing the quote unquote statistics for that. And so I think for me, that's where I've been. Regarding Billy, I don't know if he should be fired, only because I agree with you. I don't think he's had a good roster. I think we had a chance at having a good roster the year after we had Thaddeus Young and Zach LaVine, and then we ended up trading for Vucevic in that offseason. I mean, not in the offseason, but middle of the season when we
Yeah.
traded Wendell Carter and those pieces to Orlando for Vooch. I thought we had a good thing cooking. And then in the offseason when we got Lonzo and then we got Alex, I think everything went off the hinges as soon as they announced that they traded Thaddeus Young, who was a perfect power forward, next to Vucevic and alongside Zach for DeMar DeRozan. Once I heard that, I literally was just like, why are we doing this? Like, this is overkill at this point. And the moment that DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine paired up and Lonzo Ball went down, it was like, oh, this is exactly what I thought this was going to look like with Zach and DeMar.
Oh,
And
yeah, and like, sorry not to cut you
no, no,
off,
you're
but
good, you're
like,
good.
it's like, of course, we had that, fiery start when that season started and Lonzo was healthy and we were looking great. Ball was
Yeah.
moving. We had some Lob City going on. And then, ultimately when it became Zach and DeMar, which is essentially what it became for the next 2 seasons after that, well, now you look at what's going on in Sacramento, which is a very similar story going on
Yes.
there, and
Yes.
it's like, well, are you just going to blame incompetent coaching again, or are you
No.
finally going to admit that these two pieces just don't work together?
Well, nobody should have ever thought that they would work together
Yeah,
when you think about it, because they're the same size and their game doesn't complement each other. Zach LaVine is a player that still is very suited for a pace and space type of offense, a Golden State type of offense, a Sacramento with De'Aaron Fox and Mike Brown type of offense, Indiana Pacers offense. Like,
yeah.
he would be great in places like that. Hell, even in Miami, he would be great there in Miami with that type of offense. Next to DeMar, you can't run anything like that because
Yeah.
DeMar is a very older player. He wants to play only half court offense, and it's ISO ball centric, which is give me the ball, everybody kind of load up around me, and I'm going to do my thing. Either I'm going to take a fadeaway shot, or I'm going to pull up for a mid range, or I'm going to post up, let them double, and I'm going to kick it out for a 3-point shot. Like, That's to me in this NBA, that's very easy to play defense against that because it doesn't require a lot of player and ball movement. You get the load up, and now you're just hoping that guys can just catch and shoot. And honestly, unfortunately, in today's NBA, a lot of guys are not skilled enough at catch and shoot to where you can just win like that. Very few teams are good at it. The teams that are the teams like OKC. That's why they're one of the best
Yeah.
because a lot of their guys on the team can literally catch and shoot around Shea. He doesn't. They all know we space movement at times and in transition. We run some plays, but when the ball gets in half court, we give the ball to Shea, let him go to work. As soon as they load up on him, all of us are ready for catch and shoot. We might have a little weak side action where we got a little cross screen here and there, whatever the case may be on the weak side of Shea. But for the most part, it's let the defense collapse on him. We all catch and shoot. If you have guys that can execute that, then it's very easy to run. And arguably, it makes you unstoppable because you either going to let Shea go to work or you're going to give up the 3-point line. One or the other is going to happen. So you got to pick your poison. But the Bulls never had a team like that. And DeMar never had a team like that around him with Chicago. We didn't have a bunch of guys that were great at catch and shoot. Kobe is spotty. The best player we had at catch and shoot was Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
But at the end,
And then you look at the pieces again, which is like getting into the front office again, which
yeah.
isn't the topic, but like you look at the pieces you drafted, man. Like in the
Oh
past
yeah,
couple of drafts,
Julian
you
Phillips, Dallin Terry, Patrick Williams. You really drafted nothing to
that
help your cause.
yeah,
You know
man.
what I mean?
You were drafting projects. Like even Noah Asenge, I don't think he's a bad pick. I think he could
Oh yeah,
eventually
it could
develop to be something
materialize into
decent.
something, but it probably
But
would be when he's on a different team.
exactly right, which is like the whole narrative of the Bulls. I feel like in like forever is like when guys go to different teams, it's just ball, 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 ball.
Like think about this. Think about this. You're looking at a Bulls team that could have had Tyrese Halliburton as their point guard, right? You're looking at a Bulls team that could have also drafted Michael Porter Jr.
Hmm.
You're looking at a Bulls team that did not have to get rid of Lauri Markkanen. So when you think about it, just those three factors alone lets you know exactly the type of decisions and mistakes that have been made by this Bulls front office since they showed up. Like the intricacies of how we've been making decisions with draft picks has been insane. Has been insane. And I don't think I can't fault I don't think I can fault Acme for the Michael Porter Jr. because I think that was Garpax and them that
I
missed
think
out
so.
on
Yeah,
that. But the point is that this has been a consistent theme around this Bulls front office and organization of not being able since Jerry Krause, not being able to put together a functioning roster. And maybe you could say the Derrick Rose era was the last bit of time period where Garpax and them were able to kind of put together a formidable roster that kind of made sense and had some cohesion. But since the Derrick Rose era, we haven't been able to properly put together a roster. So when I'm saying fire Billy Donovan, it's almost by default that I have to say no, only because I don't think he's been given a proper roster for me to say, okay, you're the reason they're having issues. Your coaching style, your ability not to connect with guys, your ability not to put guys in positions of success is the reason why they're losing. I actually have to look at it and say, no, he's been given a terrible roster time and time and time again. Either we had too many wings and no guards, or we had no point guards and too many wings, or we had two centers that don't complement each other and no power forward. Like we've always had a glaring hole on our team, whether it was the point guard or the power forward or wings that couldn't shoot. We've always had a glaring hole that it was just like, yo, why can't we fix this thing? Why can't we get this? Why are we not going out and getting guys? Why don't we get Bobo? Why haven't we traded for Jonathan Isaac? Why, just like all of these different things where you're going like, what are you guys missing or what are you guys not seeing that everybody else is seeing about this Bulls team and the holes that exist? And so when you're looking at it from that perspective, it just makes you go like, well, as much as I want to blame Billy, I can't. He's had terrible rosters. So I kind of got to by default give him grace and say, no, you know what? You deserve to stick around. The people that should go are the people that's giving you the players to work with. And they're not going to go anytime soon. And so, with that being said, the NBA, what normally happens when you got to make somebody go away or make changes, the first person to go is always the head coach. That's the
right.
gig. That's the gig, right? That's what you sign up for in the professional sports league. As the head coach, you're the first to go before anything else goes. And so, should they fire him? It should be considered. But if you're really truly evaluating it and saying if it's fair, the answer is no, it's not fair because he
Yeah,
really hasn't been given a good roster to work with since his time being in Chicago, in my
absolutely.
personal opinion.
I'm with you on that,
Yep.
100%.
All right, Cole, let's continue to move on. Let's talk about player development. You have been working with players through your AAU club. You're working with Universal now. We're helping them develop and get better. I ran camps alongside the athletic director at Universal. I ran camps with him, other coaches. Player development was Swarm, the AAU club, working with guys from sixth grade, getting them all the way through, all the way to high school and stuff like that. So we've been both a part of a lot of player development, a lot of training camps, a lot of different things like that, helping young players get better. My question for you, though, is with today and how ESPN and YouTube and highlights and clips really take hold of what young basketball players thinks is supposed to be basketball, right? They're looking at the clips, they're looking at the reels, they're looking at the highlights. Everything is a home run play. Everything is I got to be on social media going crazy. I got to get the likes, I got to get the views. So I got to do the tween hezzy pull and everything like that. With that being said, today's player development for players now, is it more challenging than it's ever been now? Or do you think player development has always been, this difficult, this challenging? And I'm thinking like back when we were younger, learning, getting training, getting development, in comparison to these kids now, do you think these kids are having a harder time staying focused, locked in on player development and actually learning versus us? Or do you think it's always been this difficult?
So I think to answer, with it being more difficult now versus was it more difficult back then? I think it's definitely more difficult now. I feel like just you could look at probably even 5, 6 years ago, like
Mm-hmm.
the point that we've reached as a society on social media and how much our younger kids are being exposed to 7 second entertainment and being able to get into a new set of entertainment
Yeah.
really messes um with their skill level of being able to focus on a given task. And it's
Yes.
very evident. Like it's evident in our guys in our program. It's evident in the younger kids. Like obviously kids are going to be kids. Kids are eventually going to tune out, but I feel like now they're tuning out at rates like exponentially faster than they ever used to tune out before.
Yeah, it's like almost like, are you even retaining anything?
No, and the answer is a lot of the times no,
No.
because
Yep.
they need to be given 100% of the information in 10 seconds or less, or you're gonna lose their attention span.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's what's really made it more difficult is like that's definitely one of them is their attention span. But I think secondly, um, I feel like social media and also with some of the parenting today, these kids are soft, very, very soft, like emotionally.
Yeah.
And they really need to be coddled and like just so uplifted, as players that, you didn't really feel that was the case before. And, granted, maybe it's even better for us coaches that it is that way because we have to do, it puts us in a position where maybe we try to be better coaches, right? As in we're trying to learn more about that stuff and uplift them.
I don't know if we're being better coaches. I think we're just practicing being better humans.
Maybe that's what it
But
is,
but
right?
I, yeah, but
But at the
like
same
sometimes
time,
I argue like
I think what you're about to get into, it's like, yeah, it's making me a better human, but like, I'm basketball. I'm not
yeah.
necessarily to like babysit you. Like, I will try to give you many, obviously, I will try to gear you in the right direction if you have certain things you have questions about. But at the end of the day, like, you have your parents, and that's where I go back kind of into I feel type of parenting some of these kids are receiving nowadays
Mm-hmm.
very influenced by social media, and that I don't think that has really helped this new generation of kids as they've been raised. I think I don't know. I don't think these kids are getting a lot of attention, the attention that they need, the right messaging at home, and that's just naturally being translated onto the court with them not being able to pay attention, with them not being able to take constructive criticism at times.
Right.
Like
Right.
it needs to be very uplifting. And like, one of my favorite quotes, like when we talk about player development and just, in trying to keep kids' spirits high, but also just speaking to any athlete, it's from Vince Lombardi. It's not about, if you got knocked down. It's how about you get up from getting knocked down.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of these kids struggle with that, which makes player development hard
Yeah.
because once something goes wrong, their heads are just down. They are checked out, tuned out. No, let me go scroll on TikTok. Let me go play my video games. Like I'm done. Like let me get to the next day. Versus 5, 6 years ago, how can I push through this? How
Yeah.
how can I? Let me keep
Yeah.
going. Let me try to, and then maybe eventually I'll give up. But I feel like it was just a lot more fight. So it's definitely a lot more difficult now, but those are definitely my like main two factors I feel like of why it's a lot
Yeah.
more difficult now.
I'm gonna be short with it. I'm completely right there with you as far as like social media, their attention span. I think it's more so because a lot of these kids are growing up not facing any type of adversity. And I'm not saying you have to grow up in certain type of conditions, right? Because when we think adversity, some people think, oh, poverty or poor conditions or coming from humble beginnings, as people like to call it. I'm not saying necessarily that, but I am saying like what do you have to work for in life and how hard do you have to work for it? How much are you having to do chores to get the little bit of things? How much are you having to execute certain type of grade proficiencies in school in order to get the iPads and the cell phones or whatever it is that these kids want, or the free time that you want with friends? How much of this has to be right? Your discipline has to be right. Your clothes got to be folded. Your room got to be clean. Your grades got to be for you to even hang out with your friends for 2 hours on a weekend or whatever the case may be. Like, how much is actually you earning everything versus what's just given to you because you're our sweet kid, you're our sweet daughter, you're our sweet son, and blah 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 blah. And I think that's where I think where the parents step in, and then this idea that this whole players coach thing, I think, is where things have gotten fucked up. And excuse my language on it, but I think that's where things really have gotten messed up. Is this idea that we have to become like this third parent for these kids and like coddle them and well you got to talk to them a certain type of way, and it's like no, I'm not here to be a parent. I'm here to teach them the game of basketball and to help them get better at this sport that they say that they love. I didn't ask them to come join this team. They signed up to be on the team. They signed up to play this sport. They're the ones telling me that they love it. So if they're the ones that's telling me that they love it, I'm going to hold them up to the bar of performing, being disciplined, giving your all for somebody that says they love this game. And if they don't love it, I'm going to call them out for it. And no, I'm not going to call them out softly for it. I'm not going to be there and be like, hey, bro, hey, little guy. You like, I mean, obviously, if they're like, little kids, but like high school level basketball, hell no. I'm not finna be, yo, man, you could have been a little bit better. What were you thinking? Oh, I get it. I see where you were kind of. No, I don't see where you were coming from. You wasn't moving your ass at all. You sat there and you watched this guy just go right past you. Your feet was not set. You were not in triple threat position. You did not have hand and ball. You wasn't looking at the guy and you wasn't looking at the ball at the same time. You wasn't watching man and ball. You wasn't communicating. You wasn't where you were supposed to be on your defensive assignment. Like, I'm not here to sit here and just tell you like everything's gonna be all right. Tomorrow will be a better day. We'll get them next time, Tiger. No, that's not this. That's not this. And I think what has come about is this notion that coaches now are supposed to be like that. Like we're supposed to not take it as serious. And I think that's problematic because while this is a game, we're not just coaching you about basketball. We're coaching you about how life works. Life doesn't grant you opportunities; you make them, right? And it comes from you working hard. It comes from you being in the right spaces. It comes from you being in the right spots. It comes from you giving your all and giving your 100% full effort. That's how those things happen, right? If you're not giving your all to anything, if you're not dedicated, if you're not practicing hard, if you're not putting in a repetition, then great things won't happen for you. And that's in your work, that's in your life, that's with you becoming an adult, that's with you handling your discipline, that's with you paying bills. You can't pay bills this month and next month be like, well, I don't feel like it this month, because that's the way y'all play basketball. Well, coach, I moved my feet this time. I didn't feel like moving my feet last time, so that's why but I'll get them next time. Like, no, that's not life. Life don't
There,
work like that. You don't get to pay ComEd in January and then February be like, hey, yo, ComEd, man, y'all know y'all got me this time, bro. But March, though, I got y'all. Like, they're going to be like, sure, no problem. All of February, no lights. Like, that's what this is like. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so when we're being hard on them, it's bigger than basketball. But when you're taking away from the ability to explain to them the necessity of their dedication and their drive and their desire to give their full percent effort, to be dedicated, to not take it as a joke all the time, to give their all so they can maximize themselves, maximize their effort, and be there for their teammates. When we're in a position where we can't even express that to the fullest because we got to be, well, you kind of got to be a little relaxed and you got to be a little soft spoken and you got to give them words of affirmation and encouragement before you tell them what they did bad. Just tell them like, well, I see that you tried. No, I didn't see that they tried. They didn't try. Had they tried, maybe they would have stopped the guy. You know what I mean? Like, is this part of it that I think is messing up things, and then that leads into the player development part of it, whereas like these kids don't really feel like they have to work as hard. They don't feel like they honestly feel like you as a coach, you're tripping. And I think that's where we've gotten to with this area of player development and kids these ages. They it's like the coaches are the ones that's tripping because we're the ones going too hard. We're the ones where you're doing all this screaming, you're doing all because we're the ones that's actually the problem because we want it more than they do. And I think that's what's happening now. They're looking at us and saying, like, why you tripping? Like, okay, I missed it. Oh well. I mean, it's just a game. And it's like, but that's how you're gonna treat life. And then life is gonna be something much more difficult for you when you start realizing, like, oh, you can't be like that with everything. You can't treat life like that. You can't just treat everything like, oh, tomorrow it'll be different. Yeah.
right. I think, and that plays perfectly. Like I did have another quote in mind, and it's from the great Lou Holtz. It's like, how to go? It's like life is 10% what happens to you, and 90% of how you respond to it.
Absolutely. But that's the
And
adversity. That's
yep,
the adversity.
exactly,
They
exactly.
they don't experience it. And like I said, I'm not saying you got to come from humble beginnings because like when people think adversity, the first thing they want to think of is like poverty and
Right. Yeah,
poor
yeah,
and
yeah.
blah blah blah. I'm not saying that, but you have to be somewhat in a situation where everything that you obtain has to be earned, even as
There
kids.
needs to be a sense of accountability in the
Yeah,
household. Like, if
yeah.
you have a chore and you don't do it, there needs to be a certain
Something
repercussion
that
for it.
repercussion. Yeah, yeah,
And it
absolutely.
just doesn't feel like that's the case. Like
No.
I've talked to, not to put any like student business out there, but there's students that I teach that they've told me, like I've asked them, like, you guys do any chores in the house or anything? No,
Yeah, yeah.
no, no, nothing. We just, I do my homework, I play video games.
And I
I'm
live
like,
my
what
life.
time? And like it's literal like sixth graders. Like, what time
Yeah,
did you go to sleep last night? Oh, 12 o'clock.
yeah,
Are you
yeah.
serious?
Yeah,
Like, you know
I
what I
wish,
mean?
I wish I was up that late. My mama
Yeah.
would, my mama would, I wouldn't be here, coach. Let me just say that. I wouldn't be around here today if I thought that in sixth grade
Oh
I could just
man.
do whatever I wanted. But yeah, I mean, it just speaks to that. It speaks to like the lack of adversity that these kids have to deal with in their own daily lives. And so when it comes down to them being told what to do, how to do, where to go, how to move, and being challenged to do it and keep up with it, they fall into a shell and they refuse. They become complacent with just not being responsive or not responding. And then they just kind of look at you like, oh well, I mean, like it is what it is. And then on
Like,
top
like
of
why?
that,
Well, like why are you so mad?
yeah, why are you
Like,
so mad? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It turns into why. I mean, and what it becomes is like an insult to you as a coach to be like, I'm taking out all of my time. I'm investing in you. Whether you see it as that, me being here, me taking time out away from my family, my mom, my dad, my friends, my livelihood, just whatever I wanted to do. Hell, I could have just been watching the Bulls game at home for all I care. The point is, like, I'm taking my time out to invest in you, and this is how you're responding to my investment. So, just from a respect standpoint, it's just like, well, damn, You don't
Hmm.
respect the nature of this relationship. You don't respect the nature of what this is all about. This is all a give and take. I'm giving you my time and you're taking and receiving information. So that means the information I'm giving you, I expect you to apply it and give it your all in that application. That way, this can be reciprocal and not just one sided. But I do think today, like I said, just to sum it up, social media, and the short attention spans and the lack of adversity that these kids facing is making player development such a hard thing, and it's something that I think um, coaches everywhere are dealing with on all levels. I mean, I've seen videos of Rick Pitino going crazy on his Louisville players and being like, "You guys are fucking sophist. You guys never face anything. You don't face any adversity. If that's how you're gonna be, you're never gonna be successful in life." Like just going off because his team was getting their butt kicked in a game and they wasn't being responsive, and he just ripped into him. But it's just like, yeah, but they are college kids, but they've grown up during this time period. They're the
Exactly.
ones that have moved through the early stages of the social medias and everything like that. Now we're in the prime area of this social media, these clips and the non-adversity, and we get catered to and the participation trophies and all that stuff. We're in the prime of that now. So it only going, it feels like it's only going to get worse. Coaching is just going to become this thing of like where either you have the talent to win or you don't, because the kids are not interested in getting better. They're just interested in being on social media.
Yeah.
They just want to get their one good highlight so they can show their friends and they can get some likes and they can get some shares and everybody can be like, "Oh, look at that cool thing you did." Regardless of if they win, regardless of if they've actually getting better as a basketball player, none of that stuff matters as long as they can get their 1 to 2 highlights that they can put on social media.
Man, and I find it so funny because like it's funny you say that because like I feel like even at the high school level now, like we do have damn near like social like figures. Like we have celebrities in like the high school like sports just community.
Right.
And I always laugh at it because it's like the kids think it's because of the cool stuff they're able to do like on the court, on the field, whatever. And I'm like, well, no, I don't think it's a coincidence that this guy has like 50,000 followers. It's because the kid's a top five player in the state. Like
Yeah.
he is a good player. Like
Yeah.
he's a guy that's constantly putting in the
He's
work.
putting in the
Like,
work. Yeah.
do you see the product of actually, having to work for something?
Yeah.
Like working your tail off to get
Yeah.
to such a position? Like, yeah, he's able to reap the benefits. You're trying to take the shortcut.
Yeah. 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 And you would think being driven for those likes, being driven for those shares, being driven for those comments, "Oh, you tough, you tough, you tough, you tough," fiery emoji, arm and hammer
Yeah,
emoji,
yeah,
like
yeah.
all that stuff. You would think that they would look at that and go, "Well, what is this guy doing to get all of this? How's he getting all this clout? How is he getting all this, praise and love? Oh, how often is he in the gym? Oh, he in the gym all the time. Oh, he
Uh-huh.
he works out twice a day. Oh, he's with this shooting coach. Oh, he's working on his form all the time. Oh, like you would think that they would do the research. You know what I'm saying? You would think that they would do the research. Like, when we like this past week when I, was having conversation with our guys and I told them like, y'all love Kobe, y'all love Curry, y'all love KD, y'all love LeBron, y'all love all these players that y'all look up to. I'm like, you think they became the players that they became on game day? Everything that they became was in practice. Everything they became was in the gym when the cameras wasn't being shown, when nobody was watching, when it was just them, a ball, and a basket. They were putting the work in. They were consistent. They were getting the repetition. They were getting the shots up. Because that's really all basketball is. You get better by the repetition. The
Exactly.
more you keep doing it, the better you get. The more repetition you get, the more times you put the ball up. The more times you work on your handle. The more times you work on being able to slide your feet. The more you run and get your conditioning in. That's how you get better. It's the repetition. It's not because, oh, I went to such and such camp, or I went to such and such school of basketball, or I got coached by USA top coach Showalter or whoever else. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you could be with the best of the best of the best of coaching and energy drinks and energy bars and video cameras everywhere and photographers and all type of stuff. And you can still suck when all that stuff goes away, all because you're not putting in the work individually. So many of these guys are worried about the aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like, you know what it is? All of these kids are janky contractors. That's what they are. They are the contractors that get a house, don't handle the electricity work, don't do the plumbing, don't take out all the mold in the drywall or on the wood and replace stuff. They just come in, clean it out, throw some drywall up, start painting, don't fix really nothing, and just make it look good.
Yep.
And then you come in and you go, ooh, it's a nice house. 3 weeks into it, the first big rain, everything flooding. You got this leaking, that leaking, this leaking, lights start going out. That's what these kids are. They're all in it
Absolutely.
for the cosmetics. They're all in it for the aesthetics, but they're not in it for the bones of it. They're not in it
Right.
for
The
the meat and potatoes
foundation.
of
Yeah.
things.
Right.
Yeah, they're just here for to dress it up. They just want to wear the cool clothes, but they don't
Hmm.
want to do the work that it takes to actually be a great player. Because if they did want that part of it, then we really wouldn't have as many of the issues that we have about asking guys to work hard, to move, to dedicate themselves. None of that stuff. It would be more so, can we get you out the gym? You have to go home. Like
Hmm.
you really do have to go home. Like you can't stay. You know what I'm saying? It'll be more so like that. And I kind of wish that was our problem. I kind of wish that was more so the problem for most coaches is just that getting guys out the gym because they got to go home and not getting guys out the gym because they're not doing anything when they're there.
Right. I was about to say that because we do have that problem,
No,
but
we
for the
got that
wrong
problem,
reason.
but it's not because they're doing anything there. They're just in the gym, just
Yeah.
bullshitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's keep moving. Since we're talking about player development and how it impacts us, we finally got our first loss of the season, Coach.
We did.
And so I just want to quickly talk about this. How do you as a coach digest losses? How do you take those in?
Look, I think people naturally, I think, like to grip onto the feeling of defeat after you lose a game. But I do fully believe defeat is just a state of mind.
Okay.
I don't think you can actually physically be defeated. I think it's just all in your head and it's just a state of mind.
Mm,
It's not until I don't think anyone is ever defeated until you make it accepted and it
uh-huh.
becomes a reality.
Yes.
Once you accept defeat mentally, that's when it becomes real. But if
Okay.
you don't accept it and you keep trying to better yourself, you keep trying to you want to get back in the gym the next day.
Right.
You want to look at this, you want to watch film, you want to do that. If you don't just acknowledge defeat mentally, you will never you'll never feel defeated.
Mm-hmm.
It's once you acknowledge it becomes real. And like I think that's the biggest thing. Like a lot of these kids, I think nowadays, again, this kind of ties back into the player development conversation of, they're so soft. Anything goes wrong, and it's just their heads are just dipped down.
Yep.
There is no fight. There's no like, okay, like mentally, they're there, they're strong. A lot of these kids are mentally weak, and you could argue some coaches are even like that, right? Like after defeat, it's like, dang man, like oh gosh, really? Then they hang on to it and they make practices hell for the players because they lost the game. I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
Losing the game absolutely sucks. Absolutely, we want to win every single game that we step into, but you at a certain point you need to have short-term memory loss because if you keep holding on to that, you're going to start making just simple mental errors because you're not
Yeah.
focused at the task at hand,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like in our case, we lost last night's game. I'm gonna watch the film tonight. I'm gonna stat it. I'm gonna evaluate what I evaluate, and then once we hit the practice floor on Monday, I'm just looking at what we can better ourselves based on the film that we watched so that we're ready for Thursday. Not
Right. Right.
how
Right.
can
Right.
we overcome what happened on Friday? How can we win on Thursday?
Right. Right.
You know what
Right.
I mean? I think that's my biggest kind of just motivation whenever, we do take a loss is I'm always just trying to look forward to the next day because, you know, that's how, again, how you respond to any situation
Mhm.
is what's most important in all of life. And that specifically ties into the basketball game. Like if you just let the loss happen and let it cultivate, let it just sit in you, and you're not going to do anything about it, you're just going to let yourself feel defeated, you're gonna feel defeated and you'll never bounce back.
Yeah, I'm at the point. So I'll say this: as a player, losses stung way more than as a coach.
Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I can be 100% transparent about that. As a coach, I don't take it nearly as like tough as I did as a player. As a player, I would soak in it. I would be pissed off. I would want to play the team, right away, right back, like, running it back like we at the park or somewhere. Like that's how much I hated losing.
Yeah,
I still hate losing even as a coach, but it's a little different. Because I'm not a participant in the process of it as far as getting up and down the floor and competing in that factor. I can only compete through the tentacles of my players, and whatever they're giving me that day is what I get. You know what I'm saying? There's only so you can call as many sets as you want. You can disguise the defense as much as you want. You can go in and out of different zones, man to man packages, boxing one, this. You can do as many things as you want to, but if they're not giving you the effort that you need that night, then you're just gonna have a long night. You know what I'm saying? You can yell at them, you can cuss at them, you can do all of these things. You can be mad, you can be outraged, but they're either gonna give you what you need to win or they're not. And so I think as a coach, sometimes I've learned to just kind of like stay for the most part even killed. Do I have my moments where I just get super pissed only because I think we're playing so down to a level where it's like now we're just being incompetent. And I
yeah,
think that's where I get even more and more upset. It's like it's one thing if you're not giving me effort, but now you're just playing really stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like what are we doing now? Like, you
yeah,
know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like now we're just now you're being disrespectful with your play. You were being disrespectful to yourself by not giving it your all and getting your butt kicked. But when you just start playing stupid, now it's making me look like now it's making the people think I don't know what I'm doing as a coach. And now I have to be like, okay, now you're trying to disrespect me. And that's where it feels a little personal there. But as far as how do I digest losses? I mean, I think I have a healthy balance of being upset about it. Like I do let it sting. I do let it simmer. I let myself soak into the fact that like, we did lose. I didn't want to lose. I really wanted to win. I think, we had a good game plan and I go over the game plan and go like, okay, where was there things that I overlooked, that I overcomplicate the game plan, that I overthink it? Should I've just stayed with this? Should I just stay with that? But so I go through that phase. And then I go like, well, you came up with the game plan for a reason. There were things that you saw that you felt like we could have taken advantage of. It just came down to your players not being able to execute. They just didn't do it that night. Because when you look at the record that we have, obviously we've had situations where we had to come back and win, situations where we had to stay locked in and get big leads and keep those leads and stuff like that. So we've shown ourselves in multiple facets this season of being able to come back, gut out wins twice, have big leads and keep those leads a few times. So we've won in multiple ways. I'm not discouraged by a loss because I've seen how we've won and we've won in multiple fashions. But I think once you leave from that space, then like you said, it's like, well, how do you respond? How do you respond to the loss? And I think for me as a coach, it's more so like you said, don't necessarily come back in trying to make life a living hell because you lost one game and now guys are just running for an entire practice, just up and down, up and downs, up and down, suicide nines, 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 get on the track, Indian run, and we doing this for 2.5 hours straight, where you're just running them into the ground because you're so pissed. Like that does nothing either, right? And I remember practices like that where we will lose games and coach come back in the next practice pissed, and all we're doing is running and running and running and running and running. That's not fun either. And people can say, well, that's just old school basketball, that's old school methods. Sure, could be. It also could just be, this coach was super pissed and he wanted to take it out on his players. That could be just that simple too. But I think for myself, you come out of that loss using it as fuel to kind of reevaluate, relook at things, and rededicate. Rededicate to like, okay, well, now that we've lost, what is it that we can fine tune? Where do we need to fix? What were the areas that we were kind of like masking through our winning that we didn't really lock in on, that we started to overlook? All right, what is it now that we need to get back in tune with to help us get back on track? Because what you don't want to do is allow the negativity and allow the habits that got you that loss to compound. And that's something that I always preach to my guys about, like, not allowing negative mistakes compound itself. Don't let one bad mistake keep you from getting back into a positive play. Just because you let one negative thing happen, it's basketball. This is a type of sport where bad things are going to happen. You're not going to always be in position. You're going to get a foul, but it's about you being able to reset yourself and say, okay, I made a mistake this time. Boom. Next time I know not to make that mistake. Boom. Okay, let me make a positive contribution on offense. Let me set a good screen. Let me dive at the right time. Let me have my feet set. Let me be in triple threat on defense. Let me communicate better. Let me box out. Let me rebound. Let me make sure I keep the ball high if I get an offensive rebound and put it back up. It's like, how many positive things can you continuously do over and over? And that's how you get on runs. That's how you make good basketball plays. That's how you become a winning basketball program. Because the negative things are going to occur. It's basketball. It's going to happen. But it's about you not compounding it. And I think that's where, for myself as a coach, that's where I look at it. Like, okay, we lost. How do I figure out exactly the things within it that I can fix or I can come back to and talk about so that we don't make those negative things that did happen a habit that continues to permeate and allow itself to grow and become a problem for this team going forward. And that's really
Absolutely.
how, that's really how I personally try to deal with it. But, I like I said, as a player, I wouldn't be talking to nobody for like 2 to 3 days. My
Hmm.
mom, my dad, my brothers, or whoever. I just don't talk to me. We lost, especially if it was a weekend too. Oh, really? Don't talk to me.
Right.
Like it's one thing if we lost Monday and we got a game Wednesday. Then it's like okay, that Monday night, somewhere in Tuesday, I'll start talking again. Because I know Wednesday I got another chance to get one. But if it was a Friday loss and I just got, yeah, I'm not talking to nobody for the whole weekend.
Hmm.
Don't talk to me. But as a coach, it's different. It's different. And and to be honest with you, I think, you know, for me, the losses now as a coach is an opportunity to learn and to get better. And I will hope that, if I had a message for any players, if any player does come across this, that's how you should take all losses, right? As much as you want to be mad, as much as you want to be upset, you should take it as a learning lesson. Take it as something to learn from, take it as something for you to like gauge, get better at, and figure out exactly like, okay, these are the things that contributed to me not having a good game. If I change that, I'm good to go. If we start doing this as a team, we'll be right back on track. And I think that's how it should be taken. Does everybody take losses healthy? Absolutely not. So I can't tell nobody what to do. I can just prescribe that I think there are better ways to go about it, and that's how I deal with it. And I believe that we're on the same page as far as how we take it as coaches as well.
Absolutely.
So pretty cool. But all right, coach, let's get into our last subject. Again, this is Coach's Corner provided by the Halftime Podcast. You are rocking with Coach Malcolm and Coach Conrad. All right, coach, our last topic. Let's talk about it. Let's get back to the NBA. Let's get back to these Bulls. We got, rumors about Giannis. We got rumors about Zion. We got rumors about Ja Morant. We got rumors about Kobe White to the Minnesota Timberwolves. We got rumors of Zach LaVine going to the Bucks. We got rumors of all type of things happening and going. We got rumors that Giannis wanted to come to Chicago, and Chicago said, no, we don't want it because really we don't want to pay that luxury tax. But then we got rumors that the Bulls have been having their eyes on Jonathan Kuminga, and that they might even be trying to be interested in seeing if Nikola Jokic is going to sign back in Denver because that's somebody that AK really believes can change the trajectory of the Chicago Bulls due to his ties with Denver in the first place. Mike Malone is still out there as a head coach that doesn't have a job. Could that be somebody that the Bulls think about replacing Billy Donovan with as a way to kind of dangle a carry for Jokic to come to, all these different things? If you are AK and you are Mark Eversley and you're looking at the Bulls right now, the question for you, coach, if you have to put your 2K front office hat on, who is it on this Bulls roster that you are saying is untouchable? Go.
I've got a couple of names in mind.
Just two?
Maybe multiple.
Hmm. Went from a couple to a multiple. All right.
Yeah. Number one, and I think it's because of how well, I think if we look at again the relationship Billy Donovan has in this Bulls organization, I
Mm,
think he's going to be around for quite some time.
okay.
Um, and for that reason, I think Josh Giddey is a guy you consider untouchable because I think Josh Giddey sets up Billy Donovan's offense exactly the way that Billy intends it to be ran.
Okay.
So, and
Okay.
he's the type of guard that just suits Billy's whole style of playing. I think that's definitely one of the guys. Another guy, I think Matas Buzelis. I think he's got so much untapped potential. And if you could really, 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 and this is my only knock with Billy at times, like I do think he's really struggled to develop our wing players, whether it's Patrick Williams, whether it's Matas Buzelis. I think he's had a tough time letting these guys fill into the right positions they should be in.
Got you.
Though I think he's doing better with Modest this time around. Um, but I do genuinely think Modest has an absurd amount of potential, and I don't know if I'm necessarily comfortable with trading him and like a whole package of other stuff to go get a superstar because I don't think this team is a superstar away from being competitive.
No, I wouldn't say we are a superstar away, but two superstars away. Yes.
Two, absolutely. I think if you get two superstars anywhere, you start to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, with where money is being dispersed right now, we are not capable of getting two superstars unless major trades are made. And I just don't think AKME are just competent enough to do something like
But
that.
this is okay. I get it. So
But me,
yes.
me knowing that like I would be able to get a trade done for two superstars, I still do keep Matas Buzelis and Josh Giddey on this team because I think those are two system players
Okay.
for Billy Donovan that again, if we're talking about pace and space, those are two great examples of guys that play very well in pace
In
and space.
transition, yeah, I agree.
So,
I agree.
I do have one more name. I do have one more name.
Let me see if this is a shock.
I'm tempted to say another name, but um, Jalen Smith.
Would be
Jalen
untouchable for you.
Smith. For me, he's untouchable. I
Woo!
think at the age of 25, which
Wow.
again, keep in mind, it feels like he's been around. He's been in the league for so long. He's only
Yeah.
25 years old. He's
I
still
know
got a
that. I
lot of
know.
time in the league.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think his ability to stretch the floor, I think his athleticism, I think his wingspan, I think
Yes.
his ability to move is something you just don't find
From a quote
in
unquote center position.
right. And he isn't necessarily he isn't tall by any
No. What
means,
is he?
right?
6'10", 6'9"?
No, I'm looking at ESPN's roster of the Bulls, and a lot of these heights just don't seem right. They have Jalen Smith listed at 6'8".
6'8". That's it.
Yeah,
And
yep.
Dalen Terry must be like 6'6", don't they?
Dalen
Six.
Terry is 6'6".
He's only 2 inches taller than Dalen Terry.
I don't know. I have a hard time believing that,
Believing
but
that that's kind of weird. I don't think that's true.
I think he's closer to 6'9", 6'10", if
That's
I
what
were
I
to
would say.
guess.
That's what I would say.
But
I would give him six
again,
foot ten.
I think for a guy of his size and the position and the role he fills in really any offense, it's
Yeah.
hard to replace somebody like that because his ability to stretch the floor and confidently shoot that pick and pop shot or even just catch and shoot it in the corner, it's hard to get from a big man nowadays that could do it consistently.
Yeah.
And he's
I agree.
also able to put that ball on the floor and get downhill with it as well. And he provides a presence down low whether it's rebounding or shot blocking. Like
I
he
agree.
is just very felt. He's an impact player on the floor, and it's somebody I really, really hope we don't get rid of. The same way I really, really wish we didn't get rid of Thaddeus Young. Like
Right.
when he was
Right.
on the floor, you felt he was on
His
the floor.
presence. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same with me with Jalen Smith. You just feel number seven's on the floor.
Got you. Is that still his number?
I believe so.
I thought he gave it to
No,
Dalen.
25.
25 he gave. Yeah, him and
Right.
Dalen
So no,
switch
number
jersey
seven
numbers.
now isn't felt on the floor. 25 is though.
Yeah. Ah, that's funny. You bogus. Okay, so if it's me,
I do want to
oh,
say
you
one
got
more
one more?
thing. My somewhat untouchable player, and it's only because like I genuinely do still see a lot of value in him, and I think he can develop into somebody that does become. Damn, I don't want to use the wrong verbiage here. Like I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I do think he becomes something really solid for this Bulls team, and I would really hate to see him go because of his two-way capability. It's Ayo Dosunmu.
Yeah.
That's my maybe player because I could also see a world in which I would be comfortable in trading him if I could throw him in a package to get a superstar back, like a two-way superstar. I'm
Yeah.
comfortable with that.
Mm.
Those are my players.
So I'm gonna say this: if I got a chance to get superstars, they all can go.
Hmm.
They all can go. If it takes Josh Giddey to get Giannis, get him out of here. If it takes Josh Giddey to get Jokic, get him out of here. If it takes Modest and Josh Giddey to get somebody like, hell, if you had a chance to get Anthony Edwards, get him out of here. In my mind, if you're the Chicago Bulls, if I'm the front office, if I'm the Chicago Bulls, I'm trying to reinvigorate and revitalize what the Bulls are supposed to mean globally and what they're supposed to mean to the NBA. And that means we are supposed to be a championship contending team. We are the team that Michael Jordan built. We are the team that has the stamp of having the greatest player of all time play for this organization. We are the one of the only franchises that has ran two three-peats, won three championships in a row consecutively twice. We've done that. I think we're the third most championships in all of the NBA for franchises, behind the Lakers and Boston. I think it's us after that. I could be wrong, but I think it is us because I think Golden State and San Antonio are both behind us with five. So I mean, like we are supposed to be. Let me say that we are supposed to be a championship winning organization, and we have not been since the goat left us in 1998. And so I think if you're asking me who's untouchable, nobody. If we get a chance to get our hands on a generational Hall of Fame top 75 type of talent and type of player. Now, if you're asking me if it's only one guy that we're looking for, who do I feel like we need to keep around them? It would be players like Julian Phillips for me. It would be players like Patrick Williams for me. Despite some people's feelings, it would be players like that. I would need egoless 3 and D type players. Players that's gonna go out there and play defense. Players that don't need the basketball in their hands. Players that's comfortable playing a role. Players that's comfortable with doing the dirty work. While my superstar can go out there and be a superstar. I don't need players on this team that think that they are in route to get a big contract or they're en route to have a big payday or they need the ball because they need usage and they're going to be complaining about how they're not being used in the offense. I don't need none of that. If I'm bringing in a bona fide superstar, somebody that has shown improve, those guys that got egos, those guys that think that they are next up for ESPN and Sports Illustrated and all these other coverages, and they want big paydays from Adidas and Nike and Reebok, and they need endorsements. Those players got to go. That's your Josh Giddeys. That's your
So,
Kobe Whites. That's your potentially your Modest Buzelas. That's all of them. They got to go only
so would you
because they're.
consider in that case, sorry to cut you off, would you
No, you good.
consider an Ayo Dosunmu and Jalen Smith untouchable then?
I would want to make Io untouchable, but I think he's also a player that wants to get paid too. He's just quiet about it. And when it's time for him to get his deal, I think his agent is gonna be like, "Yo, don't if y'all not gonna pay my man's, get him up out of here." So I would have to have I would like to keep Io. But I would have to have a conversation with him about like, are you willing to play a role alongside this guy or are you looking for something greater? Because if you're looking for something greater, that's understandable. If you're looking to go, spread your wings and try to become a superstar in this league and all, you have all right to do that. You're young. If that's something that you want, then we can work something out with you to figure out where you can go, where you can be placed, where you'll have the opportunity to spread your wings. Would I like to keep Io? Of course. But I do think he's on that fence of being a guy that can either be on the side of I want to spread my wings or be on the side of like, no, I'm fine playing my role. I just want to win. It would just be a conversation with Io. But yes, I would love to keep him. But Jalen Smith, I would keep too. He's along with that, like the Patrick Williams, the Julian Phillips, the Jalen Smiths. Hell, I would even keep a Trey Jones.
Hmm.
Guys like that, the Kevin Herters, those guys like that, the egoless players, but the players that we consider our top dogs, the Modeses, the Vucevic's, the Giddies, the Kobe Whites, those. Even a Dallin Terry, I think he wants to be more involved. I don't think he really likes his role as much as he
Hmm.
tries to, sink into it. I think he feels like he's not given an opportunity to be what he can be. So I would be trying to move those players expeditiously if I got a chance to get a superstar. If it's just one, those would be the players that I would be moving. The guys that can just be supporting cast and not cost me too much on my payroll, those would be the guys that I would keep. Because now with that superstar and those guys playing a role, we can build around that superstar. And now we got cap space to bring in somebody else. If I got the chance to get two superstars, then anybody and everybody is gone. I don't give a damn who you are. If I got a chance to bring two good guys in here, we'll bring those two guys in here and we'll rock and roll from there. Because at that point, having those two names will start getting guys to join your team that's quality for less money because they know with those two guys they have a chance to win. We see it all the time.
Hmm.
So and it's the Chicago market. So if you win here, you get a name. There's guys who got restaurants and businesses all because they're a part of the Bulls championship run. Guys who got jobs in the NBA forever, all because they were part of the Bulls championship winning teams. Just because you were associated to Michael Jordan, you getting opportunities. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
that's what winning does. Being a part of winning gets you opportunities. So I would be adamant about like if I can get my hands on two, then anybody is gone. If I can get my hands on one, then I'm keeping the guys that make great supporting roles, good supporting cast, and those guys that want the paydays and want to fly and spread their wings. I'm gonna make sure they can go somewhere else and spread their wings. Now that I got that guy that I think is gonna take us to that next level, but that's just me. I know some people would disagree and say you're a fool. Josh Giddey is young and Kobe White is young and blah blah blah. I just think that after so many years in the NBA, you either are going to be what you're going to be or you're not. It didn't take long for Anthony Edwards to become Anthony Edwards. It didn't take long for Ben Simmons to be Ben Simmons. It didn't take long for Tyrese Halliburton to be Tyrese Halliburton. It didn't take long for De'Aaron Fox to make a name for himself. You know what I mean? Like you're going to be who you're going to be. And I think some people don't like to believe that. I think a lot of people, especially in Chicago, with this young group, a lot of Bulls fans, like, well, they're so young, and you got to give them time to develop. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that when you got Luka coming in being an MVP.
Right.
It's hard for me to believe that when you got Trae Young 3 years into his time in Atlanta, getting them to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's kind of hard for me to believe these things when we're seeing guys who are rookies and sophomores and stuff like that showing the signs. When you got the Jason Tatums of the world, the Jalen Browns of the world. No, I can go down the list. I'm not going to keep going down the list, but my point is, it's hard for me to believe I'm supposed to hold on to the Kobe Whites and the hopes of the Josh Giddies and all these other players that we think are going to be magnificent when I'm seeing guys their ages or being in the league less than them already showing signs of being those type of guys. It's kind of hard for me to believe in that. So if I get a chance to be able to get one of those guys who's a guy right now, then yeah, I'll go pack your shit up myself. As the vice president, president, whoever, I will politely go downstairs and make sure all your knickknacks is folded, pressed, tightly put together in a nice box, nice baggage and luggage. We'll make sure it's Louis and make sure you feel comfortable. First class ticket. You don't have to share no space with nobody. You'll be on clear so you can get right through TSA and everything. We will make sure that you get to where you finna go safely as we prepare to bring in that guy that's gonna take us where we trying to go. That's me. Like I said, but and it could just be because I'm starving for us to win. I'm starving to see this Bulls team and franchise get back to some form of glory. I was alive when Jordan was playing. I just didn't know he was playing.
Right.
I was alive. And people was partying. I wasn't there for the parties. I wasn't there for the fun times when Jordan was really winning all these games in the 90s, but I was here. I just didn't know what was going on. I want to be a part of it now. I'm old. I'm grown now. I want to go outside when the Bulls are winning championships and see what it feels like. I want to go be in the bars celebrating with people. When the Bulls are winning, when the Bears are winning. I want to know what that feels like.
Right.
I don't want to be my whole life being like I've been a fan since 19 blah 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 blah, and we've never won anything, and I'm 85 years old, just still waiting on the Bulls to give me one chance. Like I don't want that as a fan.
Hell no, man. No, thank you.
I don't want that as a fan. That's not the dream I have. That's not the goal for me. But we'll see. But yeah, that's what I would do if it was up to me. But if I had to just pick some untouchables, it would be the supporting role guys.
Makes
Not
sense.
yeah, it'd be the supporting. So the Jalen Smiths, like you mentioned, I like that. But for me, Josh Giddey, Modest, I'm on the fence with only because I think he's one of those that want to go fly. He wants Showtime. He want to be big. And I'm not saying that he can't be that, but I also think, unfortunately for him, he's on a team and in an offense that is not going to allow him to do what he does. And he needs the basketball. Like, whether people want to believe it or not, Modest he gets busy. He boogies. You know what I'm saying? When he get that ball, he starts to boogie. That's
Yeah.
how he been playing his entire career. From high school all the way when he was on the G League at night, he got the ball and got busy. He wasn't just standing on the wing waiting for a 3-point shot and stuff like that. I mean, that's not. I mean, I'm not saying he can develop that type of game, but his game is he get the ball and he go get busy, and he get the ball in transition and get busy. And I don't think we're seeing a lot of that. I think we're seeing a lot of him having to fit around Josh Giddey rather than Modest Buzelis being catered to develop. And in my opinion, I think you should be trying to have Josh Giddey fit around Modest. I think that's how Billy should have been implementing things. I think he should have been trying to make sure these guys can work around Modest and not the other way around.
Right.
Guys having to work
But
around
again,
Giddey.
at the end of the day, that's that could definitely be one of the knocks on Billy. But at the same time, Billy don't want to lose anymore, man. He wants to at least try. Like, and I feel for these coaches. Like, I had just seen a clip like a couple of days ago from like the Utah Jazz coach, and like he was going off on everybody on the bench, like essentially talking to his players like we talk to ours during
Yeah.
timeouts. Like, man, y'all don't box out, y'all don't run back on defense, y'all don't do this, y'all don't do that. Am I wasting my time? Y'all let me know. Like, it felt like deja vu because it's like, man, I could have sworn I had that conversation with
Station,
my
yeah.
players. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like Billy Donovan is in such a similar situation because he's got such this great coaching resume and like all this experience, and like it almost feels like it's like going to waste because he's having to deal with such a subpar roster.
Or you're starting to question, like, is he a product of having good players, or is it him being a good coach?
And
You
I'm
know what I'm
sure he's
saying?
sick of hearing that too.
Yeah, it's starting to
You
be
know he
that type of
does.
question. Like, is his resume a product of having talent, or is his resume a product of him being able to develop talent? And
Yeah.
so far, you're leaning towards his resume as a product of having the talent. Bradley Beal, Joakim Noah, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. Then you get to Chicago for a little bit of time. You got Lonzo, you got Zach, you got DeMar, whatever. And when it worked, it worked. But as soon as certain things fell out and you started to get a little less talent in order to do the things you needed to get done, your coaching couldn't step up to make things work. You couldn't get Io to the level of Lonzo. You couldn't make Kobe a point guard that could work alongside Zach and DeMar. So, then it starts to question, like, well, how good is your coaching? How good is your development? How good are you being able to adjust on the fly and, make and adapt? So I don't know. You're right. Nobody wants to lose, man. It's nobody wants to lose is the best way to say it. Like, nobody really wants to lose. So even when you are discussing the concepts of, like, oh yeah, should you put the ball in Boozie's hand? Maybe it might be best for Boozy, but is it best for Billy Donovan to try to win games? Probably not.
Right.
Maybe he looks at it as like the best chance for him to win games is to keep the ball in Josh's hands.
Hmm.
I don't think that's the best thing for Boozy's development, but then that's the question. Like, what are we here for? What are we doing? Are we developing the potential star of the future, or are we winning basketball games?
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know. That's a trick bag. I guess if you are Billy Donovan, you're asking the same thing. Like, somebody give me direction. Somebody
Right,
tell me,
what am I like?
what
What
are
do you
my
guys
goals?
actually want me to do?
Yeah,
Because if you want me to just develop, I promise you, I will just give Matas Buzelis the
the
ball.
ball.
But
Yep.
like, you guys haven't really told me that. You guys want to make play-in
You
tournaments so
guys
we
want to
could sell
be
some play-in
competitive.
tickets, right? So like, we could sell some play-in tickets, possibly make the playoffs and
Yep.
sell more tickets. So like, I need to keep this team competitive at the same time.
Yep.
So he's really in like a middle ground. It does feel like a stalemate for sure. Kind of,
Yep.
it really doesn't lean any one direction.
Yep. All right, coach. Anything else you got for the good people today?
Hey man, we haven't said it yet, but peace, blessings, and prosperity to all of you, the halftime community, and the Coach's Corner community, of course, and
Absolutely,
anyone that's
absolutely.
watching this episode of the Coach's Corner.
Yes, as always, we will be back with the halftime podcast. Things have been, like I said, things are just crazy right now between the basketball schedule,
Certainly crazy,
games,
man.
practices, being sick, family emergencies, just all type of things are just going on right now. It's been a crazy November and December, so we haven't been able to kind of get back with the halftime podcast. We know that we try to present the halftime podcast a little bit more polished and uh a little bit more particular. It's we run that like a real show, so we try not to infuse what we do over Zoom with what we do with the halftime podcast. We try to separate that for its professionalism, but we will be back to that one. This is not to say the coach's corner is not professional, it's just a different aesthetic.
Yep.
But the coach's corner, we will try to provide that a little bit more in the meantime, while we're working things out with the halftime podcast, because this is a platform that the halftime podcast presents, and we want to build this up just as much as anything else, so that way we can expand this with our other coaching partners and friends that they can join in, chime in on, and we can just keep branching this out to more and more people and be able to expand this. But again, this has been an episode of Coach's Corner. I am Coach Malcolm. That is Coach Conrad. As always, peace, blessings, and prosperity to you. And whether it's the halftime podcast or Coach's Corner, you know how we always sign out. It's C Red and bear down, baby.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
go. Woo!